So today we are going to finish the lesson on abominations that we have to sigh and cry about. Yeah? We have been sent a message in the scriptures that in the last days we are going to sigh and cry. For what? For abominations around us. Isn't it? And abomination particularly in the church. And we have to sigh and cry for those abominations to receive the what? The seal. I'm afraid if you do not sigh and cry, you will never get the seal. Because it is known that when people were sighing and crying, there were some who were throwing a cloak over sins around us. So we are not going to throw a cloak. We are going to sigh. What does sighing and crying mean? We will point them out. We will point and let's, this is wrong, that is wrong. That's sighing and crying. Whether people hear or they don't hear, but our duty is to sigh and cry for abominations around us. And we have to, because God says that, isn't it? Go to Ezekiel chapter 9. Ezekiel chapter 9. Does he admonish us to sigh? Does he command us to sigh and cry?
Yes.
Right. Read from Ezekiel 9, verse 4.
Verse 4.
Uh-huh.
And the Lord said unto him, Go through the midst of the city,
Right.
through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof.
You see? So this is a warning. This is a command for us to sigh and cry. If we don't sigh and cry, we will not receive that mark. So the mark is dependent on, have you seen what God is saying? Have you seen the wrong things that God is saying? Have you done anything about them? Or have you said, don't talk about it, or stop condemning, stop criticizing, stop. There are some people who do that. But what they do not know is they are not receiving the seal. If you receive the seal, you should be marking them and criticizing it and saying, this is wrong. Okay. So, we have been commanded to sigh and cry. For what? Abominations in the church. This is what God has commanded us. Isn't it? Does Sister White say so? Huh? Go to Testimonies for the Church, page 211.
The class who do not feel grieved over their own spiritual declension, no more over the sins of others, will be left without the seal of God.
You see? So, we have been commanded to sigh and cry about these abominations. The class who do not feel grieved. Yeah? There are some people who see things that are wrong. I'm not bothered. I have nothing to do with that. As long as I myself are right with God. They do not feel grieved about the wrongs. They will be left without a seal. It's clear. Because we have seen these sins. We have seen these abominations first. It's God. And He knows you have seen them. He knows you have seen them. And He asks you to sigh and cry. What is to sigh and cry? Point them out. Most people do not want, because they want their peace and comfort. But there is no peace message in the last days. The message is to sigh and cry for what is wrong. So here it says, the class who do not feel grieved over their sin, over their own spiritual declension, nor mourn over the sins of others, will be left without the seal of God. So it's on condition that you sigh and cry. You point it out. If you are quiet, God will bypass you. This is what I'm reading here, isn't it? What does God say?
The Lord commissions His messengers, the men with slaughtering weapons in their hands.
Yeah?
Go ye after him through the city and smite. Let not your eyes spare.
We know soon after the seal. Yeah? God commissions his angels to go in when the day doom comes for the judgment which begins in the house of God. He will instruct these angels like he did in Egypt. He instructed the angels to what? To slay the firstborns, isn't it? Now here, he will instruct his angels to go in, but not go near anyone with the mark. What was the mark for? Sighing and crying. See? It's not something which we devise. It's something which is a commission from above. To sigh, to point it out, and say, this is wrong. This is not supposed to be done. This is wrong, isn't it? Now, let's go back to the abominations. We saw in the previous lesson that we need to be reverent in church, yeah? And we need all abominations that we have seen in the past video. If you do not know them, go there, go back and view the past video on the abominations that we should sigh and cry about, yeah? Now, today we will see another type of abomination. There's one which I made a general comment and say, disbelief of the spirit of prophecy. Disbelief of the spirit of prophecy. Is it among us generally? Is it among us? Is it among us as a people? For judgment begins in the house of God. Now, disbelief of the spirit of prophecy. And I'm saying, if not acknowledged by words, yeah, it is admitted by works. The works will show there is a disbelief. You don't need to say. It is clear you do not believe. For instance, what does the spirit of prophecy say? We should be vegetarians. That message started with us as a people. That we should abstain from eating meat, isn't it? Yes. Is it said by word? No. Some say by word, no, I can't leave it. But some say by action. Huh? Is it what the spirit of prophecy said? Yes. Anywhere you go, you say, I'm vegetarian, they know where you belong. Yeah. They know what we believe. But those who are in this place where they're supposed to not to listen to that message, are they doing that? So there is a disbelief of the spirit of prophecy. Is it the word? Is it a command from God? Let's go to Medical Ministry, page 280. Let's hear.
The Lord has given us the work of proclaiming the message of health reform.
Is this a health reform message? Yes. Have we been given by God?
Yes.
So do not ask me why I'm saying it, because it's the spirit, the prophet of the church says God has given that work. Now, the Lord
has given us the work of proclaiming the message of health reform.
Yeah?
And if you cannot step forward in the ranks of those who are giving this message, you are not to make this prominent.
Right?
In counterworking the efforts of your fellow laborers who are teaching health reform, you are out of order.
Right.
Working on the wrong side.
If God says to messengers, proclaim the message on health reform, and you come and counterwork it, Sister, why the very Spirit of God says, step aside. But how many people are stepping ahead without believing in the message of health reform? We have been given that message. And God is persuading those who cannot believe that message to step aside. And not to counterwork the work of health reform. Yeah? Read again. When will those? Yeah.
Take their stand.
Right.
On the side of right principles for time and for eternity.
So we are correct when we say disbelief of the spirit of prophecy is there around us. And we have to sigh and cry for this abomination. Because here he's saying, when will those who know the truth take their stand on the side of right principles for the time and for eternity. Meaning, for this time, we are told not to eat meat, isn't it? What about eternity? Same. When will we get ready for eternity? Because this is what eternity is all about. This is what was in the Garden of Eden before sin came. It was not being eaten. And when are we going to go back to Eden? For this time and for eternity. Huh? So this belief of the Spirit of God is all around. It can't be said by word, it will be said by works. And the works do tell us the Spirit of God has never been believed.
When will they be true to the principles of health reform?
When will our people be true to the principle of health reform as it was given by God? When? Because we have to sigh and cry for this abomination of not believing in God. Yeah? Mm-hmm.
When will they learn that it is dangerous to use flesh meat?
You see, it is dangerous to use it. It is deadly. And it has been given to our church because judgment begins in the house of God. And later on, it goes outside. To tell everyone who is getting ready for eternity to abstain from this danger. Fortunate enough, even outside, those who don't belong to us, some of them are now vegetarians. So the message has gone ahead and left some who are in there without heeding to this message. When will we start learning? When will they be true to the principles of health reform? You see people running, wanting to do the work of God, but without heeding the principle of the belief, without belief in the spirit of prophecy. Yeah? So the abomination says, disbelief of the spirit of prophecy. It's not only in health reform and in other things that we have excluded in our church policies, and yet they are in the Bible. That's why it is dangerous to make those policies, because anything outside that policy will never be understood by anyone. The Bible and the spirit of prophecy is our church policy. Anything in there is correct. Is profitable for us to be saved. Yeah? And look at whatever. Have we been given the feast?
Yes.
Yes. And do you know there are people who really know we have been given the feast? Many people will say they were nailed by the cross. You know what? One thing was nailed. The animal sacrifices were nailed. Yes. But not the feast. Not the Sabbath. Not the new moon. Let's go to the verse which says so. Go to Colossians. Colossians chapter 2. You have to know what was given. Yeah? Isn't it? And what exactly was given? Let's see what was given. First, go to Deuteronomy chapter 6.
The commandments.
1.
The statutes.
2.
And the judgments.
3.
Which the Lord your God commanded to teach you.
We have 3 there. But we should know what they are. These are 3 different things. Yeah? We have the 10 Commandments. We have the judgment. What are the judgments? The laws that govern neighbor to neighbor. If you want to go to the whole chapter of Deuteronomy, the whole chapter of Leviticus, there are judgments there. Isn't it? That govern us with other people. Isn't it? That also make us live with animals. And there are laws that we shouldn't have this with animals. Isn't it? Yes. Men shall not lie with animals. Men shall not. All these are judgments. Yeah? So, God has given us 1, the 10 Commandments. 2, judgments. 3, statutes. What are statutes? Go to Psalms 81. What are statutes?
Sing aloud unto God our strength. Make a joyful noise unto the God of Jacob. Take a sound and bring hither the timbrel, the pleasant harp with the psaltery. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon,
Right.
in the time appointed, on our solemn feast day.
Right?
For this was a statute for Israel and the law of the God of Jacob.
Right. So the new moon is a feast. Is what? Is a solemn assembly. Is a statute. Is a law of God. The God of Jacob. Yeah. Is it?
Yeah.
Now, what are statutes? The feast, the assembly, the law of God. Do we keep feasts?
Yes.
Were they nailed to the cross? These were given together with the commandments as far as Deuteronomy chapter 6 is concerned. It says, God, go back to verse 1, Deuteronomy chapter 6.
Now these are the commandments,
1,
the statutes,
2,
and the judgments.
So the statutes are the feasts, are the solemn assembly.
Yes.
For there's no way in the Bible where you find that people should assemble. Even in the 10 Commandments, it says people should rest.
Yes.
But in the feast, people should come together. It's only in Leviticus 23 where you find these assemblies. The 10 Commandments does not command anyone to assemble.
No.
It commands you and me and my children and my servants to rest. And my animals to rest. But only where I'm commanded to come together on the Sabbath is a feast in Leviticus 23. To come together on a camp meeting is a feast. So if we want to keep the feast, let's keep them properly. So it's disbelief of the spirit of prophecy. Yeah? Someone was asking me, did Sister White go to the camp meeting on the 7th month of the Jewish calendar? On the 7th month, on the 15th day of the 7th month. Then I asked the question, who are the ones who knew that 22 October 1844 was a day of atonement? Who is it? How would you know the day of atonement when you do not know that the day of atonement is a feast? If you have not kept that, how would you know? You cannot guess it from nowhere. And Sister White preached the third angel's message. What does it say? Read Revelation 14, verse 9. That's her message.
Verse 9.
Yeah.
And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God.
What was she preaching about? Was it the worshipping of the beast?
Yes.
What had the beast done? Let's go to Daniel chapter 7, verse 25 in Good News Bible. You understand what had the beast done?
He shall speak against the supreme God,
Right?
and oppress God's people.
That's what the beast did, isn't it? What?
He will try to change their religious laws and festivals, and God's
Who
people.
changed the feasts? The beast. 538 AD to 1798 AD is way after the cross.
Yes.
The feasts were changed. Don't tell me that they were changed. They were nailed to the cross when they were still there in 538 to 1798 AD. Unless you do not know how to count. They were still there. The feasts were still there in 1844, 22 October. That's why they knew the day was a day of atonement. It is a feast. Now they are not there from 1844 until 2019. Someone is not taking charge of the work.
Yes.
For they should be a prophet. Says Sister White went to another date which was not the 7th month of the the 7th month, the 15th of the 7th month of the Jewish calendar, and went to a camp meeting in a wrong date because the people refused the 1888 message by 80 Johns who had come for the church to keep the feast. So he has just to follow them where they are. Because the messengers were the two guys, 80 Johns and Wagoner. What did they bring? Galatians. Let's go to Galatians 3. What did they bring? Barely less than 40 years. God had sent two messengers to top up the 10 commandments which were being kept. To say, keep the commandments as well as the ceremonial law.
Wherefore,
the
law was our schoolmaster to bring us unto Christ.
Right?
That we might be justified by faith.
Mm-hmm. So, this text was the text that was brought by 80 Johns and Wagoner. Go and look for it. They were saying, right, we have kept the moral law, but you still have to keep the feasts which come under the ceremonial law. Go to Selected Messages, book 1, page 233, and see, is it that Sister White was commenting about? Is it what 80 Johns and Wagoner brought?
I am asked concerning the law.
They had to go to the prophet to ask what these two guys are saying. We should keep the ceremonial law together with the moral law. But they were refusing because it was at Minneapolis. They were refusing to say, we can't keep both. We only have to keep the moral law. But the two guys, 80 Johns and Wagoner, said, no, you should keep both. Now they asked Sister White, which one is this law of Galatians 3 verse 24, which is the schoolmaster, which brings us into righteousness by faith? And listen to Sister White's reply.
I am asked concerning the law in Galatians.
Yeah?
What law?
What
is
law?
The schoolmaster to bring us to Christ.
What? That is schoolmaster in Galatians 3 verse 24, which is saying it is going to bring us to righteousness. Sister White is answering them that which law is this? You understand? And what is her answer? I am asked.
I answer. Both the ceremonial and the moral code of the 10 Commandments.
These are the schoolmasters that 80 Johns and Wagoner were bringing.
Amen.
Huh? And what happened? When he said so, did they salute and say, okay, let's go and introduce these two laws? Did they salute and say, let's introduce? Listen, how could they keep the feast when they rejected it? Go to the next paragraph, 234. There was an unwillingness.
234.
Yeah. An unwillingness to yield. 0.6. 234.6. There was an unyielding. Start again.
An unwillingness to yield up preconceived opinions.
Right?
And to accept this truth. Lay at the foundation of a
Was this truth accepted?
No.
There was an unwillingness to yield preconceived ideas. What were the preconceived ideas? That we should only keep the moral law only without the ceremonial law. Or what was the preconceived idea? That the ceremonial law was nailed to the cross. Now, you know, when you're arguing, and then you finally find an answer and find you were wrong. Some are humble to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. But some will have an unwillingness right until today. Unwillingness to yield preconceived ideas. It only meant that they had to go back and restart from the foundation and restart and say, we got it all wrong, let's restart. That's all.
Yes.
And that was going to profit everyone.
Amen.
But right until today, that unwillingness is still profound. That's why we have to sigh and cry. Because Sister White, if you read and finish that chapter, will tell you that the very message, I'll read it. The very message of the ceremonial law and the moral law, what was it supposed to be done when it was received, right?
An unwillingness to yield up preconceived opinions and to accept this truth lay at the foundation of a large share of the opposition manifested at Minneapolis against the Lord's message through Brethren E.J. Wagner and A.T. Jones. By exciting that opposition, Satan...
You see who was in charge? Who was making them reject the ceremonial law? Who was it? Is he dead?
No.
He's still there.
Yes.
Satan really worked very hard to make sure this A.T. John and Wagner was not accepted. The law, which was the schoolmaster to give us righteousness by faith. The law which had both the moral and the ceremonial law to bring us to be acceptable unto the Lord. Satan worked very, very hard. Is it the same Satan who worked with the beast?
Yes.
To change these very laws? Now, these very laws were supposed to be brought back to the people by A.T. Jones and Wagner in 1888. But the devil worked so hard to make sure they will never, the beast will continue to nail, to change these times and laws. But fortunate enough, God devised a way for you and I to sigh and cry for the abomination and get the seal.
Amen.
Huh? Read on.
By exciting that opposition, Satan succeeded in shutting away from our people, in a great measure,
In a great measure.
the special power of the Holy Spirit
Right.
that God longed to impart to them.
This is the letter end we are crying for.
Yeah.
This is the special power which we long for, which we have been praying for. Send a revival. God, send a revival. What is this revival? Of taking both the moral and the ceremonial law as it was being brought by A.T. Jones and Wagner. But has it been accepted?
No.
I tell you, I'm in August right now. The whole world is still worshipping the beast. How many people are yearning? The month of August is the 5th month in the calendar, in God's calendar. And how many camp meetings are there? The whole world will wander after the beast. It says so in Revelation 13, verse 8. The whole world wandered after the beast. 8 and 9. Like it was with A.T. Jones, the whole world rejected A.T. Jones and Wagner. And even if the prophet was there with Sister White, who seconded them and said, I am asked about which law is the schoolmaster in Galatians 3, verse 24. And she answered clearly and said, both of them. But there was an unwillingness to yield preconceived ideas. And Satan managed to shut a special power coming from God. The later end should have come. And what was supposed to be done after that?
By exciting that opposition,
Yeah?
Satan succeeded in shutting away from our people,
Right.
in a great measure, the special power of the Holy Spirit that God longed to impart to them.
Right?
The enemy prevented them from obtaining that efficiency
You see?
which might have been theirs in
Right.
carrying the truth to the world,
Tololo.
as the apostles proclaimed it after the day of Pentecost.
Everything was shut. They were supposed now to join in what happened on the day of Pentecost. Amen. And they were supposed now to have another second Pentecost. The later rain, not the former now, but it is the later rain. Let us strive to work hard with these two laws to get the later rain. Amen. And what?
The light
Eh.
that is to lighten the whole earth
Do you hear now?
with its glory
Do you hear the loud cry?
was resisted.
This is the loud cry, the two laws. That's why we have to sigh and cry that we should receive these two laws. The feast were held, exegesis, eschatologically, and all the words that the philosophers can give to nullify these two laws. But let me tell you one thing. God will triumph.
Amen.
That if it were possible, the very elect would have been taken out by the devil. But the very elect will magnify the law.
Amen.
As it was sent in 1888, and Sister White gave a warning that the very law, the two laws, will come back soon before Christ comes.
Amen.
But when it comes, it will also be rejected. It says, now come. Has it been accepted?
No.
Nah. It's all about being very conscientious and being hardworking. You understand? If you are lazy, you won't worship God. Because when you keep the feast, you have to be a hard worker. It's a hard work. Go back to the Old Testament when they were keeping. They were hard working. When the animals were still being slaughtered, on Sabbath, how many animals were slaughtered? Just on Sabbath. What about on New Moon? What about on the Passover? On the Day of Atonement? Read the Old Testament and see how hard-working they were. Now, animals have been removed, but the times are still there.
Yes.
Read from Great Controversy, page 399. These feasts, why should we keep them? These types.
These types were fulfilled,
Right.
not only as to the event,
Right?
but as to the time.
It's not only the event that God is looking for. That you can take any minute and say you are doing Lord's Supper any minute. The time should be pointed out by the symbolic service. That you can please God and go anywhere. Sometimes some are now saying it's not a Feast of Tabernacle. They are saying it's a revival. Where in the Bible is it? You don't do things that are not in the Bible. If it is a Feast of Tabernacle, we will send you to the date. If it is a Sabbath, we will send you to the day. You don't just take anything and say it's a Sabbath. No, it has got to be the day. Same as the feast. It has got to be the date. So these times were not only fulfilled as to the time, as to the event, but the time. The time was important. And what?
On the very day
On the very day.
of the first Jewish month,
Right?
the very day and month on which for 15 long centuries,
Right?
the Passover lamb had been slain.
For 15 long centuries, they were keeping the Sabbath. 15 long centuries, they were keeping the Passover. 15 long centuries, they were keeping the camp meeting. But on the very day and date. Now, go to the paragraph which says, in like manner.
In like manner,
Yeah?
the types
The
which
types.
relate to the second advent
Right.
must be fulfilled at the time pointed out in the symbolic service.
Exactly. Exactly. That's why Paul says, you are not of the night. You know the time Christ will come.
Yes. Amen.
Because in like manner, all that time is in this symbolic service. Go to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. You see, some will say, nobody knows the day, nobody knows. But the Bible doesn't say so.
But of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you.
Hang on from there. As for the
Times.
and
Seasons.
when do we keep the feast? Go to Leviticus 23, verse 4.
These are the feasts of the Lord,
Right?
even holy convocations,
Right.
which ye shall proclaim in their season.
Did you hear the times and seasons?
Yes.
Which are the times and seasons? The feasts.
Amen. Amen.
As for the time and what?
And the season.
That's why Great Controversy, page 399 says, these types were not only as per event, but as per the time. So Paul is now saying, as for the time and season, and he has some people who he calls brethren. What was Paul? A feast keeper.
Yes.
That's why he calls some people brethren. As for the time and the season, brethren.
I have no need.
But there are some who are not his brethren. Listen, go to First Thessalonians, chapter 5.
But of the times and the seasons, brethren,
Yeah?
ye have no need that I write unto you.
Who are these brethren? The ones who keep the feasts, who know the times and seasons. Because the feasts are to be kept in their seasons. Meaning in autumn, there is a feast.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
In summer. In spring. But Passover is found in spring. Of which calendar? Of the Jewish calendar. That's what he's saying. And you have to ask them, which one is your spring? And you go there, you find they are in Passover. Which is their first month, which is spring. The first month is Abib, which is April, isn't it? There you find the Passover. The feast, if the first month is April, when is the tabernacle, the camp meeting? April, May, June, July, August, September, October. That's why this year the feast is, the camp meeting is on the 14th day of the 7th month in the Jewish calendar. Amen. This is what Sister White is talking about. Yeah? This is what Paul is talking about. The times and seasons. Yeah? As for the times and seasons, brethren, you have no need that. Now, if you are waiting for October being autumn, this is what God says. Keep these feasts in their seasons. Now, in October, the whole heaven is looking for the Feast of Tabernacle. Yes. These are the times and seasons. Yeah? Now, when you are still expecting April, you are expecting the Passover, and you find someone is telling you that they have finished the camp meeting in April. This is why the beast changed over the time so that you get lost. Because you want to know. When is the Feast of Tabernacle? The camp meeting, Leviticus 23, verse 34. When is it?
Speak unto the children of Israel, saying,
Yeah.
the 15th day of this 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord.
You see? It doesn't matter whether it starts on Thursday or Wednesday or whatever. If it is the 15th day of the 7th Jewish month, it's the Feast of Tabernacle.
For 7 days.
For 7 days. Unto the Lord. No, not unto anyone. Unto the Lord. Go and do yours unto somebody. But we want unto the Lord. Yeah. What he has clearly written in his Bible. The problem is that if you don't keep the feast, which is the new moon, you will never know which one is the 7th month, which one is the 15th, counting from the first day, which is the new moon. So, to compensate the calculation and the arithmetic of knowing which time is it, or which day, or which, because you don't keep the new moon, you just say, all was nailed to the cross. That's laziness. You have to check the time. That's why worshiping has got to do with conscientiousness, not laziness. Just make a calendar one and put it to the whole body. The whole body, the whole Sabbath keepers will know the date. That's all it is needed. But those that will follow the lamp wherever he goeth will keep the times and season. That's why Paul says, go to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. As for the feast of times and season, my brethren.
You have no need that I write unto you.
My brethren of Paul. Who is the brethren of Paul? Raise up your hands. That's it. Amen. Feast keepers. Amen. You keep the times and seasons. Amen.
For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night.
But to who? If you hear someone saying, the day comes as a thief, is not the brethren to Paul. Listen to the statement.
For
Eh.
when they shall say,
When there is someone, Paul is saying they, and there's someone saying brethren. You understand? He's addressing two sides. Some who don't keep the times and seasons, who he calls they shall say, hey, listen, they. And he's saying to those who are keeping the times and seasons, which are the feasts, he's saying, brethren, when you hear them, say
peace and safety,
peace and safety.
and then sudden destruction.
Suddenly,
Come with
because they do not know the times and season. If you knew them, you will be ready. Huh? You have to understand Paul. He's an intelligent writer. He's addressing his brethren, the feast keepers. Is it Paul who was keeping feast? Let's have a verse where he was keeping feast, so that we know he was a feast keeper. Because many people love Paul, but they do not know that he was a feast keeper. So he has got brethren. We have a brethren in the Bible. Which verse did you get?
Acts chapter 20,
Acts chapter 20,
verse 6.
verse 6.
And we sailed away from Philippi.
Listen to what Paul did. Uh-huh.
And we sailed away from Philippi
Uh-huh.
after the days of unleavened bread.
Yeah?
And
Did you
then-
see he was keeping Passover?
Yes.
He ate the days, the unleavened bread during the Passover feast. Uh-huh.
In Troas,
Right.
5 days, where we abode 7 days.
You see, he was a feast keeper. That's why he's addressing those who are keeping feasts from the times and season. Brethren, look at him. He was keeping Passover. Which other verse?
16.
Verse 16, on this Acts chapter 20, verse 16.
Had determined to sail by Ephesus because he would not spend the time in Asia.
Yeah?
For he hastened, if it were possible for him, to be at Jerusalem for the day of Pentecost.
Do you see, he went back to Jerusalem for the day of what? He was there for the feast of Passover, eating unleavened bread. And this is way after the cross. Oh, you are naming things that are not, the early Christian church was keeping. So how dare you are nailing? And you say, oh yeah, were they nailed? Oh, good. Someone will say Paul was the preacher of the Gentiles, isn't it? Look at the teacher of the Gentiles, keeping feasts. Christ was keeping feasts. He was keeping the feast. Paul was keeping feast. Now, I don't know who was not there in the Bible. I didn't find anyone. We will find Abraham was keeping feast. He was keeping the statutes, isn't it? We say you are the son of Abraham. Go to Genesis chapter 26. You see, Abraham was a statute keeper. That's the feast.
Verse 5.
Verse 5.
Because that Abraham...
Listen, a sentence which starts with a because. Because. Then you say because John, or because Luke, or because. You understand? Now, in the New Testament, find Paul is keeping the feast. Now, we want Abraham in the Old Testament. Is he keeping the statutes? Which are the feasts? Right, because.
Because that Abraham obeyed my voice,
Right.
and kept my charge,
Right.
my commandment,
Yeah.
my statutes,
Right.
and my laws.
You see, he was a statute keeper,
Amen.
commandment keeper, all God's laws. That's why Abraham was a chosen nation. And then he says, Galatians chapter 3, verse 29. Go to that verse. I do not want to read it with my own mouth, but I want you to listen from your Bible.
Verse 29.
29.
And if ye be Christ,
If ye now be Christians,
then are ye Abraham's
then you go back to Abraham,
and heirs according
as
to the
according to the promise.
Amen.
Was he a feast keeper? Yes. And you say you are also a Christian. As according to the promise. He was a feast keeper. He was a feast keeper. Paul in the New Testament, Abraham in the Old Testament, all keeping the feast. And he talk about the 144,000, their first fruits. Where did you get the word first fruit? In the feast keeping. So the 144,000 are feast keepers. Amen. That's why we come with those terms, first fruits. It's in the symbolic service. There's no way you can do things outside. When we are chosen to be Abraham's seed, in another way, Romans will say we're grafted.
Yes.
Where we grafted. I'll use that flower then. Give me the flower. You will see what happens. I've got nice flower here. Go to Romans 13. Start from verse 13.
Verse 18.
Yeah?
For I speak to you Gentiles, inasmuch as I am the apostle of the Gentiles.
Do you see what Paul is saying?
I magnify my
He was a feast keeper. We have seen it. Isn't it? Now we want to hear what he was saying to us who think we believe in Paul. He is speaking much as what? Listen.
For I speak to you Gentiles,
Yeah.
inasmuch as I am an apostle of the Gentiles.
Yeah?
I magnify mine office.
He says he's got an office to preach to the Gentiles. He's now telling the Gentiles. Who is you and me? You say we are Gentiles. We are not Israelites, but we are now spiritual Israelites. We are even more. We should be more than the Pharisees, isn't it?
Yeah. If by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are my flesh,
Now
and
he's
myself some of them.
talking to the Jews. He's talking to the Gentiles.
Yes.
Someone will say, these are things for the Jews. We are Gentiles. Right. He's talking to the Gentiles.
For if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world,
Right?
what shall the receiving of them be?
Right.
Life from the dead.
Right. I'll give two. I need two leaves. Yeah. And then I need a white one there. Just take the rest. Right. I have 2 trees here. You see 2 trees. One is the Jewish tree. And the other one is the Gentiles.
Yes.
Now read again.
For if the casting away
Yeah?
of them be the reconciling of the world,
Right.
what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead?
I said this one is who? The Gentiles. The Jews. If the casting, those who rejected Christ, what happened? You see this leaf? Cast away. And what happened?
For if the first fruit be holy,
Right?
the lamp is also holy.
We know in their origin, we started with Moses. Was holy. What made Moses holy? Is he the one who was instructed the commandments, statutes, and testimonies? Is he?
Yes.
Is he the chief lawgiver
Yes.
from Mount Sinai?
Yes.
What made him holy? Commandments, statutes, and judgments. He is the first fruit. If the first fruit be
Holy.
now in this tree, which is the Jewish tree, isn't it? The first fruit is holy. That's Moses, Abraham. We saw they were keeping statutes.
Yes.
Jeremiah, Isaiah, Christ, the first fruits were holy. They were keeping these feasts, the statutes, the judgments, the commandments. Yeah? The first fruit is holy. Now repeat that verse again.
For if the first fruit be holy,
Yeah?
the lamp is also holy.
So the first fruits which started are holy. So the rest
Should be holy.
should be holy. Just like an orange tree. If you just take one orange and find it's very nice, tasty, the whole lump is nice. Right?
And if the root be holy,
The
so
tree
are
has
the
got roots. And the roots also become holy. If an orange is nice, even the root is excellent. Because all the roots, the leaves and everything contributed to a nice orange. Yeah?
And if some of the branches be broken off,
So some of the branches from this Jewish tree were broken off. And what?
and thou, being a wild olive tree,
Now, this Gentile, what does he say? You are a wild olive tree. So, we will take some leaves from this Gentile tree Yeah? We have taken a leaf from the Gentile tree. Yeah? And where are we putting the leaf? Where this leaf came from? Here. Take it that it has gone in. It's a bad illustration though. But I hope it will awaken some senses. So it's grafted. Grafted, it means it has been like a skin graft. You take from another and the leg to put the skin that you have taken from a leg to the sore which is on the other leg. And then you see the skin graft has what? Has been taken. This is what we have been done. Taken from this wild Gentile tree. And where did we go? To them. You understand? Where do we go? To them, to this tree. Where Moses was. Isn't it? And what happens?
And if some of the branches were broken off, be broken off.
These were broken.
And thou,
and you,
being a wild olive
from
tree,
a wild olive tree,
wert grafted in among them.
And were taken from this tree. It's not the tree which was taken, but a branch was grafted, like what I've done there. Yeah? So who lives what? Who lives who? Is it them living and joining us?
No.
Is who lives? Us and joining them. Huh?
Yes.
That's why we have to keep it in Jerusalem. Yes. With the who? With the them.
Amen.
Yes.
Otherwise, if it is them coming to us, they will come to Chitungwiza to keep the feast. Yes. But we go there to keep the feast because we're grafted there.
Amen.
Huh?
Amen.
And if some of the branches be broken off,
Yeah?
and thou,
Thou.
being a wild olive tree,
You coming from this wild tree. You know why wild? No feast, no new moon, no Passover, no. This is what is happening to this one. It's wild. But here, Sabbath, Passover, new moon, atonement, tabernacle, correct date, correct day, Pentecost, everything there. Yes. We have been taken so that we don't stop being wild. Go there. Go there. Go there. So listen to the verse. It says you were grafted. This one is refusing. I don't know why. Like those who are nailing their fists. They are refusing. Right?
and if some of the branches be broken off,
Right?
and thou, being a wild olive tree,
Wild olive tree.
wert grafted in among them,
You were taken. The leaf was taken. The tree wasn't taken. The tree is still there. The tree continues wild there. But what has been taken are the branches because these ones were taken off to create space for the wild branches to come in.
Amen.
To be grafted. In where? In the tree, which is the first fruit holy.
Amen.
and with them
With them.
partakest of the root. And
What are you doing when you are there? All the roots that are there, you are now also in charge of, you are also saying, root, I want some more mineral. The root gives you. The root gives you water. It gives you all the electrolytes. You are ingesting there.
boast not against the branches,
Stop boasting against the other branches or against those which were taken off. Boast not. How do we boast? How do we boast? How do we boast? I like a good text in Isaiah 56. Go to Isaiah 56. It will tell you, now it's talking about the Sabbath. It's someone boasting. 56 verse 1.
thus says the Lord God,
Yeah?
keep ye judgment,
Right?
and do justice.
Do you see the judgments? Keep ye judgment and do justice. Uh-huh.
For my salvation is near to come,
Right.
and my righteousness to be revealed. Blessed is the man that doeth this,
What?
and the son of man that layeth hold on it, that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it,
Right?
and keepeth his hand from doing any evil.
Right? Blessed
Neither-
is that man.
Neither
Eh.
let the son of the stranger that hath joined himself to the Lord.
Do you see the sun which has joined?
Yes.
These are the wild trees. Joined. Wild branches from this tree. Joined, grafted. You understand? Neither say he what?
Neither let the son of the stranger
Right?
that hath joined himself to the Lord
Yeah?
speak, saying, The Lord hath utterly separated me.
I'm not
From
part
his
of that
people.
tree. That's boasting. I'm not part of that tree. I have my own things. Listen.
Neither let the eunuch say,
The other one is a eunuch. Let the eunuch, these are not Jews. Stranger is not Jew. Eunuch is not Jew. Lisa say what?
Behold, I am a dry tree.
I'm a dry tree. You see boasting.
For thus says the Lord unto the eunuchs
Right?
that keep my Sabbaths,
Right.
and choose the things that please me,
Right.
and take hold of my covenant,
Right?
even unto them who I give in mine house,
Right?
and within my house a place and a name better than the sons of the daughter and daughters.
They will also be saved. They shouldn't boast.
Amen.
They will say, we also want the Lord of Abraham. The Lord of, we are also, if you be Christ, you are all what? Abraham's seed. You have all been grafted in this tree. Go back to Romans 11.
And if some of the branches be broken off,
Some of these ones, they were broken from the original tree.
and
Thou.
being a wild olive tree,
Yeah?
wert grafted in among them,
You are grafted. You are just wild there, but we are grafted.
and with them partakest of the root and the fatness of the olive tree.
Right?
Boast not against the branch.
Boast not.
But if thou boast,
If you boast,
thou bearest not the root,
you are not the root.
but the root thee.
The root is the one carrying you, my dear. My dear. Who is the root? It's Christ. It's the one who feeds this tree, isn't it? The root, don't boast because he is the one in charge of the tree.
Thou would say then,
That would say then.
the branches were broken off, that
You
I might be grafted in.
You should say these branches which were taken, thank them thoroughly. Because they were taken so that the space is created for you. Well,
Because of unbelief,
because
They
they
were
did
broken
not
off.
believe in Christ, they were taken off. You believed in Christ, you were grafted. So it means if you only say I'm a Christian, key in the tree. You can't say I'm a Christian and remain with the wild olive. You have to relocate. That's what happens. Do you believe in this relocation?
Yes.
In the transformation?
Yes.
Boast not.
yeah,
So this belief of the Spirit of God is one of the things we have to sigh and cry about. Now I was telling you what was given. We have seen there, we have been given what? These commandments, statutes, and testimonies and judgments. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 6 and now read as a novel.
these are the commandments,
Right?
the statutes and the judgments, which the Lord your God commanded to teach you.
You see those three things? Commandments, statutes, and judgments. Right? They have been commanded to this tree. Right? And verse 17?
Verse 17.
Uh-huh.
Ye shall diligently keep the commandments of the Lord your God, and his testimonies,
Right.
and his statutes.
There is one thing which has been added. Testimonies. What are the testimonies? Go to Isaiah 8, verse 20. To the law and to the testimony.
To the law and to the testimony.
Yeah?
And if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them.
Now, they did not have the commandments and the statutes and the judgments, but they had a testimony. These are the four things. But we want to know from verse 24. The reason why they should keep these 4 commandments, statutes, judgments, testimonies. Why are they supposed to keep these?
Deuteronomy 6 verse 24.
Eh,
And the Lord commanded us to do all these statutes,
right?
to fear the Lord our God,
They are one to fear.
for our good always,
For your promotion,
that he might preserve us alive as it is a
protection.
And it shall be our righteousness.
That's your seal.
If we observe to do all these commandments.
These
before the
4
Lord.
are your seal.
Amen.
Do you see what is used by God as a sealing process?
Yes.
These 4
Amen.
commandments, statutes, judgments, testimonies. These are seals. Huh?
Yes.
Now, if they are seals, we see God in the Old Testament adding a 5th law. Huh? Law number 5. Huh? Let's go to law number 5. We have now commandments, statutes, judgments, testimonies. Number 5 is what? Numbers 19 verse 2. Verse 1 and 2.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, This is the ordinance of the Lord,
Right.
which the Lord hath commanded, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they may bring thee a red heifer without spot.
What are those?
Ordinances.
Those are animal sacrifices. It's a 5th law. How many laws were given in the Old Testament? 5. Now, the Bible should state which one is being taken away in the New Testament.
Yes.
For people do not know what was taken away. They are taking away everything. We have commandments, we have statutes, we have testimonies, we have testimonies and judgments, and we have ordinances. 5 laws that have been given, isn't it? Now we want to see, and if you go where it is being given in Nehemiah chapter 9 verse 13, you find when Moses went on Mount Sinai, he was given these 4 laws. But he wasn't given the 5th. He was given the 5th on his own. This is the law which is called the law of Moses, the 5th one. Because it was being added to these. But on Mount Sinai, these 4 commandments, statutes, judgments, and testimonies were given on Mount Sinai. But the ordinances, animal sacrifice, is the law which Moses also was given, addition to the 4 laws. But the 4 laws are mandatory. The one which is being added, which is the ordinance, was nullified by the cross. I'll give you the text which says so. Go to Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 13. To Moses.
Verse 13. Thou camest down
Right.
also upon Mount Sinai,
Right?
and spakest with them from heaven,
Right?
and gavest them
Yeah.
right judgment,
Right judgments,
and true
true laws,
and good statutes,
good statutes,
and commandments.
and commandments. How many things were given? 4. Do you get that? Yes. So this one which was added is the ordinance, is the law of Moses. You understand? Yes. If you hear people saying the law of Moses was and then they go to the statute and say the law of Moses. No, the 5th one being added is the law of ordinances and is the law of Moses. Amen. It's an animal sacrifice. Let's go to Colossians chapter 2. You have to start on verse 14 for Colossians.
Verse 14. Blotting out
Right?
the handwriting.
Right. You see the handwriting. We have 5 handwritings here. We have statutes, we have commandments, we have judgments, we have testimonies, we have ordinances. There is a handwriting which is now going to be taken out.
Blotting out
Right?
the handwriting of ordinances.
Amongst the 5, the ordinances, which was an added law, which Galatians 3 saying, what saves you, ye of this law? It was only added. Which law is it added? This ordinance is added to the 4. We will go to Galatians. And because some people have a lot of misconception of that Galatians 3. They think the law which was added is the 10 Commandments, or is the feast, or is the judgments. No, the law which is being added is the animal sacrifice. It has been added to the 4 laws. But the 4 laws are binding, statutory. Now, go to 14.
Blotting out
Right?
the handwriting
Of what?
ordinances
Did you hear it
that
clearly?
was against us.
Through Oxford English, the handwriting of ordinances.
That was against us.
It was where? Against us. How? Because the priest would. Huh? What happened when you kill? Your conscience is troubled. This law of ordinance was against us. Why? Because we still have these 4. One of the 4 says, do not kill. It's the commandment. So what was the priest doing? Keeping these 4, while keeping the 4 laws, going to kill an animal. Because God imposed that on the priest. That without the shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. So God made the priest who is keeping the 4 laws break that law by killing the animal, breaking the 10 Commandments. Huh?
Yeah.
Eh?
Yeah.
When you're killing, are you breaking the commandment?
Yes.
Go to Isaiah 66. Go to Isaiah 66 and see you are actually killing. That's why you are arrested when you kill even a dog. You are arrested. A dog, you are arrested. A donkey, you are arrested. Though you are not killing, we are not eating it, but you are arrested. Yeah, you kill even a snake, you are arrested. It's got a right to live.
Yes.
You are arrested. That's why they have game packs to keep them. That's a good job. I don't know whether you are arrested for killing a chicken or for killing a goat. Are you arrested for killing a goat? Or killing a sheep, a lamb? Or I don't know. Let's hear the Bible. From the Bible, Isaiah 66.
Verse 3.
Verse 3.
He that killeth an ox
Yeah?
is as if he slew a man.
It's the same. It's the same. You kill an ox. It's the same as how you kill a person. And where are you being condemned? 10 Commandments. You're killing. Thou shalt not kill. Yeah? God didn't say thou shalt not kill a person only.
No.
Don't add to the verse. It just said
Life.
take life.
Yes.
Take life off. The spider, take it nicely with a broom. Put it outside. Yeah? The snake, create it to go and call those who keep animals to come and get it. Preserve its life. Yeah? The chicken, someone say, I've got a farm. My farm is a ranch. So what will I do? Adam had more than yours. Adam was the one who named them, who gave them names. He was getting a blessing just for keeping. Keep. Isn't it?
Yeah.
You get a blessing for keeping. The Bible says, even those who put water outside in a basin for the birds, they get a blessing. If you get a blessing for the birds, get it for your oxen, for your chicken. And rear them and keep them. Don't keep them for your tummy. Rear them and give them life. Yeah? So you see now, that law was against us. Yeah? Let's go to the verse which actually says it was against us. Hebrews 9, verse 9. You see, the priest was taking the cow or the bull on the altar and slaughtering it. Yeah? Listen to that process, what was happening.
Which was a figure for the time.
Yeah?
Then present.
It was a figure for what will happen to Christ. Is it?
Yes.
Was Christ killed on the cross? Yes. By right, he was supposed to be killed like what they were practicing. They were killing a lamb on the altar. So like what Isaac what was done to Isaac? Isaac was put on an altar to kill him, isn't it? But because of the transaction which occurred with the Pilate and everyone, they had to rush him on the cross. Yeah? But for 15 long centuries, they were killing an animal on the altar. That's what was going to happen to Christ. So he was supposed to die that way. But he had to die on the cross because of this transaction that were happening on his trial. You understand? Now, here we are seeing what the priest was doing to see whether that law was really, the 4 laws, was really being kept by the priest or not. Yeah?
Which was a figure for the time, then present,
Yeah?
in which were offered both gifts and sacrifices.
Right?
That could not make him that did the service perfect as pertaining to the conscience.
Do you see the priest was killing the lamb? Or the carnal ordinance? Or the carnal is meat, isn't it? He was performing that, but it did not make him perfect as pertaining to his conscience.
Which stood only in meats and drinks,
Right?
and diverse washings,
Right?
and carnal ordinances,
You see the carnal ordinances?
imposed on them until the time of Reformation.
Which one is the time of Reformation? The New Testament coming in from the Old Testament. That's a Reformation. It was imposed on the priest until Christ died. What was imposed? The carnal ordinances. The killing of the animals. Now, when you understand Colossians chapter 2, verse 14, it says, blotting now the handwriting of ordinance, of animal sacrifices, which had been imposed by God on the priest until the New Testament. So after New Testament, the killing of the priest was not permitted. What about your killing? The law has got to be binding.
Yes.
That's why the priest would stop killing the animals at the cross. To keep these 4 laws for righteousness, to fear the Lord, for our good always, for protection. These to preserve them alive. Especially in this dark world where there is so much disease and suffering. These laws are paramount. If they kept Abraham, if they kept Adam and Eve, they were set up. The killing of animals started at the Garden of Eden. Soon as they committed that sin, Adam and Eve, they were dressed with the animal skin. Why? Melchizedek, the high priest, had killed the lamb. So the killing of the lamb started there. Abraham keeping all these 4 laws. That's why he was called the friend of God.
Amen.
What about Methuselah? What about Enoch who walked with God? What about Moses? What about Abraham? What about Joshua? What about Christ himself? And then now when the world is so dark, that's when we nullify these laws and only keep the 10 commandments and leave all these. Really? Is it not said?
Yes.
God said we will have a revival and reformation. You see where the reformation is? Of making sure all these laws are kept. Who did that? Go to Malachi 4, verse 4 to 5.
Verse 4.
Uh-huh.
Remember ye the law of Moses my servant,
Right?
which I commanded unto him in Horeb,
Right?
for all Israel, with the statutes and the judgments.
These were 4 laws. But he has now singled these other 2 which are not being kept. Which are being kept. The commandments are being kept. The testimonies are being kept. But what about the statutes, the feasts? What about the judgments? So, remember ye the law of Moses which I gave in Mount Sinai or Mount Horeb? With the what? Statutes and judgment. Why did he leave the commandments and the testimony? We are keeping them. Isn't it? But there are two which we are not keeping. Now God is saying, remember those two that you are not keeping. And what? Verse 5. Behold,
I will send you Elijah the prophet.
Right?
Before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
The great and dreadful day is the coming of Christ, which you are waiting for. It's now great and dreadful. Great to who? To those who keep. Dreadful to those who continue rejecting. He will send Elijah. Yeah? TM 475.
Must be fulfilled.
Right?
The Lord says,
Yeah.
behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet.
Right?
Before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the
That's
Lord.
Sister White then. Somebody
is to come.
is to come.
In the spirit and power of Elijah.
Right. Now, or we are now expecting to go into the kingdom, isn't it? God sends somebody through his love. He sends somebody. He sent that somebody through 80 Jones and Wagona. And we rejected as a people, isn't it? And now Sister White said, the same message will come before Christ comes, isn't it? Now God has sent and is so distinct. He is explicit that the law which he will bring in the last minute before he comes is the law of the statutes and judgments with Elijah. Yeah? To make sure the four laws are all binded together with the commandments, statutes, judgment, testimonies. Huh? Now, this belief of the spirit of prophecy is nailing them. This is an abomination which you have to sigh and cry for, so that you receive the what? The seal. Yeah, you cannot force anyone to change. You cannot force anyone to change. All we can do is say it out. Say it out and say, when are we going to start keeping these statutes? When are we going to? Forcing people to keep wrong dates and whatever. You cannot stop it, but you have to air it out. You understand? But those who are supposed to be in the number, the 144,000, will sing a song of Moses and the Lamb. Which one is the song? These four laws. Why are Moses and the Lamb? Does the Lamb keep these four laws?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Where did Christ keep this? The Passover. Matthew chapter 26, verse 17.
Now, the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying unto him, where would thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover?
Was Christ a feast keeper?
Yes.
Do you see his song? Is keeping the feast. It's also the brethren to Paul. Brethren, as for the time, the season, brethren. Christ was a brethren. The disciples are, where are you going to eat the Passover? Yeah? He kept the Passover. And then verse 18.
And he said, go into the city to such a man, and say unto him, the master said, my time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at thine house with my disciples.
Now, go to AA, Acts of the Apostles. Page 390, second paragraph.
Upon receiving...
Paul and Christ are friends, isn't it? They keep feast.
Yes. 390.2. Upon receiving warning of the plot, Paul decided to go around by way of Macedonia. His plan to reach Jerusalem for the time of Passover services had been given up. His plan to reach Jerusalem in time for the Passover services had to be given up. But
how many feasts do we keep in Jerusalem? The Passover, the Pentecost, the Tabernacle. Here he's saying, Paul had plans that they are planning to kill him. But he had planned to go for the Passover way to Jerusalem. Right. His plan to reach Jerusalem in time for the Passover services had to be given up. So he was planning. But what made him give up? They were planning to kill him.
But he hoped to be there at Pentecost.
Amen.
Right? But he
He
hoped.
hoped to be there at Pentecost.
The next feast, which was coming in 50 days, was the Pentecost.
Amen.
He says, even if I did not go because they are planning to kill me, but I will go at Pentecost.
Amen.
Now, go to the 4th paragraph. At Philippi.
At Philippi, Paul tarried to keep the Passover.
Paul tarried to keep the what?
The Passover.
Repeat the verse.
At Philippi, Paul tarried to keep the Passover. Only Luke remained with him, the other members of the company passing on to Troas to await him there. The Philippians were the most loving and true-hearted of the apostles' converts. And during the 8 days of the feast, he enjoyed peaceful and happy communion with them.
The Philippians,
Amen.
they kept the feast.
Yes.
Paul and the Philippians kept the feast. This is way after the cross. These 4 laws are supposed to be kept. Huh? As it was given, as they were given to the pioneers. And anyone who says is of Christ goes back to them. Now, let's finish Colossians chapter 2. Verse 14 now, it says, according to the 5 laws, the 5th law, which is the one which was added, which is the animal sacrifice, was what? Was nailed to the cross. Read it now in verse 14. Now we understand what was blotted.
Blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to his cross, and having spoiled
No,
principalities.
go to 16 now. Now we know the ordinance, the animal sacrifice was what? Nailed to the cross. Right, verse 16.
Let no man therefore judge you in meat,
Right?
or in drink,
Right?
or in respect of a holiday.
Did the verse say, let no one keep the holidays, or the meat and the drink? The meat is not flesh, because the Bible, the animal flesh is not called meat in the Bible. It's called flesh, but the meat is the bread. You understand? Yes. And the wine which they were eating together with the lamb, isn't it? But the lamb has been taken away. What has remained? The meat, the bread, and the wine. The drink is the wine. Yes. So the bread, if you want, you can refer to Exodus 28, verse 38. 29 verse 38, it will tell you what the meat was. It was the flour mingled with oil, which is the bread, and the drink was the wine. Go and read the Exodus 29 verse 38 to tell you that. So let no one judge you in meat and
Or in drink,
in bread and wine, right?
or in respect of a holiday,
Were they being taken away? No.
or of the new moon,
Was it taken away? No.
or of the Sabbath days,
Was it taken away? No.
which are a shadow of things to come.
Paul is saying to himself, these, the meat, the drink, the holidays, the new moon, the Sabbath, are still a shadow of things to come. They haven't been nailed. If it's a shadow, it's still to continue. Yeah? Until it meets antitype. So they were still a shadow to Paul's day of things to what? To come. So they are still a shadow to us. We know the Sabbath is a shadow of the millennium, isn't it? So should we stop keeping it? No. We will stop. We won't stop. It will be fulfilled by us keeping the millennium in heaven. So we continue. What about the new moon? It still be there in the new heaven and the new earth. In Isaiah 66, verse 22, it will still be kept in the... So it's still a shadow, isn't it? The meat, which is the bread and wine, are we still taking it as Lord's Supper? Yes. So it's still a shadow of things to come. So it never stopped. Let no one judge. Who was he talking to? He was talking to those who were saying Christ was not the one. When Paul was preaching to the Gentiles, he was telling the Gentiles that Christ is the one who was killed on the cross, isn't it? But those who did not believe that it was Christ, they were coming to disturb So he's telling the Gentiles that let no man judge you to say, why are you eating this bread? And why are you eating this wine? Why are you keeping the Sabbath? Why are you keeping the new moon? Why are you keeping the holidays? They are a shadow of things to come. But the body, which was the ordinance, animal ordinances, has been the body of Christ. It has been nailed to the cross.
Amen.
Don't nail everything. Nail your salvation. So disbelief of the spirit of prophecy is one of the abominations we have to sigh and cry about. Yeah? We have to mention it. God says, agitate, agitate, agitate. Oh, I've set watchmen on the walls of Zion. They will never keep silent until righteousness is brought to the people. So we have to sigh and cry so that we receive the seal of God. Yeah? Now, these are the abominations that we have to sigh and cry about. So disbelief of the spirit of... There's so many things that we disbelieve. So many things of the spirit of prophecy. Failing to inform others about the Elijah's message is an abomination on its own. Go to Volume 4, Testimony for the Church, Volume 4, pages 402 and 403.
With our profession, we shall see very much more accomplished than now. When we have men as devoted as Elijah and possessing the faith which he possessed, we shall see that God will reveal himself to us as he did to holy men of old.
Right. We have been told, remember ye the law of Moses, which I gave in Horeb, isn't it? Which is the judgments and the statutes. This is the law of the feast. That's Elijah's message. When people are as diligent, as devoted as Elijah was it his message in the time of Ahab? Elijah the Tishbite. Was it his message?
Yes.
This is what he brought about and shut heaven for 3 years without rain. When he was being kept by that woman of Zarephath, isn't it? When he was being fed by the ravens, when they did not even want to hear from him, he was hiding because they wanted to kill him. Ahab wanted to kill him, isn't it? This was his law. And that's why God has brought the same spirit which was in Elijah back to us to keep the feast.
Amen.
Now, here's he's saying, read further. God will reveal himself to us as he did to Elijah. For the law has been broken, has been disregarded. So he raises men with the message of Elijah. Right?
When we have men who, while they acknowledge their deficiencies, will plead with God in earnest faith as did Jacob, we shall see the same results.
These results will be the same. As it was with Jacob, as it was with Elijah. As it was, when people are so devoted, God will bless them.
Amen.
And what else?
Power will come from God.
Power then comes. What power are we experiencing? Watch faithfully, meaning give the people the message for the hour. Yeah? So we have to sigh and cry for not giving this message to the people. There are people paid to give the message of Elijah. We have to sigh and cry for them to give that message. Some of these messages are not even present truth. The present truth is Elijah's message.
Amen.
Yeah, if you want to give them, you can give them somewhere, but they are not present. It's the present truth that the flock needs now. So we cannot just give, because in the time of Noah, you preach anything else other than the flood, you are off topic. In the time of Lot, you preach anything else other than the destruction of Sodom, you are off topic. In our time, we have to preach the gospel of the statutes of the kingdom, which is about to be established. So you and I, brethren, we have to sigh and cry for abominations in order to receive the seal of God. May God bless the lesson.